Hi, my name is Jessica McDaniel, and I am one of the EMS weekend therapists. It's good to be with you today. And today we're going to be talking about the lies that we believe as women and the personal insecurities that often come up for us. So a few common lies that we often believe as women is, I am not enough unless my partner says something good about me. Another one is, I need my partner to fulfill me or to complete me, to make me feel better about myself. Or maybe this, my value or worth comes from what men say about me rather than what I think or feel about myself. If we have a good enough sex life, maybe my partner will not leave or reject me. And finally, my marriage or my relationship will protect me from the pain of rejection. If you can relate to any of these lies, most likely they are rooted in a deep place of hurt and woundedness. But today we want to talk about your own personal insecurities that might fuel some of these lies as well. First of all, they can be rooted in the assumptions that we make about the other person, ourselves, or our environment. Second, they can come from a place of our own hurt or woundedness based on our past. And sometimes this past has been filled with deep hurt and pain. And sometimes this past has been filled with things that we believe about ourselves that just aren't true. And today, I want to help you challenge those beliefs. We would rather hold on to what is familiar than to challenge these thoughts and risk being wrong or hurt again. This will manifest throughout our lifetime as insecurities. The insecurities that we bring into the marriage are then indicative of how we will handle conflict, pain, and the betrayal wounds from infidelity. To dive into insecurity for a moment, let me define it here. The most common definition of insecurity is an uncertainty or anxiety about oneself, lack of confidence, or self-doubt. All of us are susceptible to insecurities, but especially for women who have been betrayed in the marriage. These insecurities are what bubble up when we are experiencing deep woundedness, pain, and betrayal. So if you'll go with me for a minute, grab a pen and paper, I want to walk you through an exercise that is going to help you identify places of insecurity in your own life so you can get to a place where you believe with confidence things that are true about yourself. The first question is this: where are you the most insecure? Is it your appearance? Is it your looks? Is it your body type? Is it your intelligence? What is the main area in your life where you feel the worst about yourself? Notice that I'm asking you to think about where you feel the most insecure about you, not where you feel insecure in the relationship. This is going to be hard and maybe a little painful, but I promise if you'll stick with me, it's going to be worth it. Second, what feelings are associated with this insecurity? Can you name them? For example, do you feel worthlessness or hopeless? How far do these feelings go back into your story, into your past? Do they go all the way back to childhood? Maybe middle school? Where have you felt feelings of shame and pain? And write it down. Third, what do these feelings cause you to think and feel about yourself? This is usually where our insecurities live. They're tangled up in the thoughts and the feelings that we have about ourselves. For example, this feeling of worthlessness makes me feel ugly or unattractive. That's a pretty hard place to be if our insecurity is telling us something that is mean or unkind about ourselves. A great next question is this: what do you do when you feel this way about yourself? Do you run to avoid the feeling? Do you try to numb the pain? Fourth, as a result of this insecurity, what do you now believe? Or in other words, what are the lies that you're now believing about yourself? For example, because I don't feel pretty enough, maybe he will leave me or do this again. And so therefore, I have to try really hard to keep his attention. The stories that we tell ourselves are often automatic, and we don't realize that we're doing this because it is such a process that we have practiced throughout the years that it feels like normal. So now we have to ask ourselves, is that story really true? We have to be willing to adjust the story that we're telling ourselves based on a standard of truth rather than how we feel. I could dive into this more, but for now, Think about evaluating yourself based on kindness and positive self-regard. For me personally, I was and probably still am most insecure about my appearance or my looks. I often wonder if I'm pretty enough or good enough to keep my husband's attention focused solely on me. Now I realize that this is an unrealistic expectation, but nevertheless, it is at work. I can easily compare myself to other women and find fault in myself based on what I think is true about them. When I feel this way, I can often feel worthless or hopeless or just gross. And this is not a good way to see myself, but in that moment, I feel trapped by my feelings rather than being able to see what is true and good in myself. In the past, I would often use this as ammunition to fuel my belief that my husband's pornography addiction was a direct result of my imperfections or my insecurities. On the outside, I appeared to have it all together and portrayed a veneer of self-confidence and security, but inside, I was constantly wrestling with questions of, am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? And these lies would just bubble to the surface day in, day out, and I would listen to them. But what I want to ask you to do is to stop and consider, what are you believing and why, before you just take them as automatic truth. My feelings and behavior were completely wrapped up into another person's behavior, and so I was stuck. In our insecurities, we often feel exposed and humiliated, a deep sense of shame, which can whisper lies that say there is something wrong with me. For me, God began to reveal that someone and something had to be bigger than what I believed about myself in order for me to come out of this stuck place. I discovered that the freedom to walking in honesty and vulnerability came from learning how to accept myself just as I am. And so I want you to think about that as well today. How can you accept yourself just as you are, flaws and all? The hard feelings, the painful wounds, can you look at that and accept that for where you are right now? So just to recap, the process you can begin to use to evaluate where you are in this process is first, where am I the most insecure? Second, what are the feelings that are attached to this insecurity for me? And can you actually name and identify them? Third, what do these feelings cause me to believe about myself? Fourth, as a result, what have I chosen to believe? This is usually where the lies camp out, and so this is where you can begin to discover the lies that you're believing about yourself. And finally, please ask yourself, is that really true? Am I seeing myself through a lens of love and grace, or am I looking at myself through a lens of hatred? I hope that you'll take the time today to consider the messages that you've been telling yourself, the lies that you've been believing, and be willing to take a step toward challenging those insecurities. We hope that you'll be willing to take a step into vulnerability and to be honest with yourself about the things that are going on inside of you. We hope that you'll be willing to take a deeper look at the hidden parts of your story and to step out into vulnerability. We want you to find a way to process through the pain of betrayal and infidelity while taking a look at the things in your own life that you do have the power to change. Thank you for joining me today to Healing.